ethical, moral injunctions are immutable, meaning when it talks about morality, morality is consistent, doesn't change. That's what they're saying. But the rituals, the ceremonial aspects can change. For example, circumcision, now it's baptism. You understand the distinction they're making?
Yeah.
So they're saying when it comes to moral, ethical commandments, don't sleep with your sister. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas the ceremonies, right? The rites performed. In the Old Testament, circumcision. In the Old Testament, animal sacrifice. Well, that doesn't need to be binding. That can change. So now it's water baptism and it's the Eucharist. This is the distinction they're making. Now, I'm not saying that the distinction is not genuine, but when they tell you, well, the ceremonial aspects are done away with, but the moral injunctions are binding, then it comes down to, well, how do you know that this specific injunction is a moral injunction or simply a cultural injunction that's culturally defined, culturally normed, that is not necessarily reflective of God's immutable moral character? What do I mean? During the Old Testament period, God allowed multiple wives. Today, if you have more than one wife, what would you be?
Sinner, adulterer.
But that's a moral issue. But I thought morality doesn't change. You see, it's much more complicated than some people would like to have it. Because even certain practices that were allowed back then, you do them today, you'd be immoral and you'd come under God's wrath. So I cannot have 2 wives, 3 wives, or 4 wives, nor can I have a concubine. Allowed in the Old Testament. So when God allowed it, does that mean he was now sanctioning immorality? Well, see how complex it is? Or in the beginning stages of human development, when you only had Adam and Eve, you had no choice but to marry your sister, right? And you had no choice but to marry your cousin. Now, if you marry your sister today, what would that be?
Incest.
But at that time, you had no choice but to marry within the family, or there would be no human seed, no human race. You see, so even that issue of moral injunctions are irrevocable. Ceremonial injunctions, they can change.